1080p. That's 4K, right? High quality. So that's good. Let me. I'm just looking over at the live stream, and yeah, that code looks awesome. So yeah, I think this will work out okay. And actually, you know what's interesting? I don't have the Restream right here on at least the Restream dashboard. I don't have the Restream branding there. If I look over here on Twitter, I can share my screen here too. Yeah, right here. I don't see the Restream branding there either. So that's cool. The only reason that I would pay for a Restream then is so that I could go live on Twitch as well. I know a lot of people like to watch Twitch. Wow, this is getting intense. Lots of Kents. I know a lot of people like going watching stuff on Twitch. The thing is, I'm still not going to be paying any attention to chat. Although this does, wow, now it's getting intense. This does have a chat window. So I don't know, maybe, but the thing is that I'm definitely still like, this is a work thing for me. I'm actively working. I'm not here to interact with folks on chat and stuff. And so I'm not sure whether I will actually continue to do or like continue to ignore chat or not. I do want to stay productive. That said, my bot does, of course, still work with this. And so if I actually prefer doing chat in Discord. And I typically ignore the chat over there just because it's often unrelated questions, or sometimes eventually, like within a half hour, I typically get really racist comments and stuff, which I just don't think is very nice. And so I'll probably ignore that. The nice thing about the Discord chat is that I can still get like really nice like moderation capabilities. That's pretty easy. There's plenty of friction, that's desirable friction for people getting into the Discord. So I think I'm probably still going to stick with that. Yeah, I do notice that there are chats in here that are relevant, so I'm going to look at those anyway. Esteban is saying, are you sure you can stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same time? Yes. There are people that can't stream in other services when streaming on Twitch. Twitch does not allow them. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. I wonder what would happen if I tried to switch Twitch on right now. Okay, limit reached. What if I try to... I'm going to turn off Twitter. Goodbye, Twitter. And I'm going to try and turn on Twitch. If I pay for a subscription, which is like not cheap, but if I pay for a subscription, then I can do all three. But for right now, as I'm testing, I'm going to turn off Twitter. So goodbye, Twitter. I'm going to try and turn on Twitch. We'll see that, if that works. So Twitter is going, I think. Yep, there it goes. Now I turn on Twitch. Here, I can share this. There we go. And I'll just pause this.
This is just turbo because if he joins the team and he isn't the best mid by a significant margin, people will shit on him. I mean, that doesn't really matter. As long as like people don't actually think he's bad. I mean, I don't know. Doublelift joined a team and he's been generally pretty bad, I would say. Like he's thrown now multiple games and he's got outlaned and he's playing super well. Like when you look at how Doublelift is playing, he plays the game weird. The first like 10 minutes of the Caitlyn lane, oh my god. The Caitlyn lane versus CLG. I mean, this is versus CLG, which, I mean, CLG should not be a good team. TV2, like, they just play poorly. Like, obviously, you can't just go on the Varus support here with your entire life. There's a lot of HP level 1. He's also on Doran's Blade. Or, no, he's on a Longsword versus Doran's Blade. Okay. They hit level 2 first. I mean, if you're going to play this fight, I think you probably have to flash the Q. Like, you have to flash the damage. Like, you can't get hit by Varus Q and your Kalista Q. You'd have to, like, walk forward, place the trap, and then flash up. Like, flash, like, down. I mean, they probably lose here either way. But like you'd have to flash there. But the way he plays it, they don't even get summoners off the Kalista. I mean, we definitely can't get hit by everything there. You have to make at least Kalista sweat for it. I mean, and the thing is, if he makes Kalista sweat, then maybe it's just 1-for-1. Like, maybe Busio can just leave then. If he flashes down and, like, you know, they play around alcove and, like, there's a way that you can make this. You can make them sweat. But instead it's just 2-for-0. Okay. That's fine. And here, I remember not thinking Doublelift needed to die when I was watching this. Yeah, I feel like Doublelift didn't need to die here, by the way. If you watch this, it seems very weird that he actually dies. Like, he's like trying to fight. Like, instead of just walking back, like, he could just walk back, you know? Like, he just walk straight away. But instead, he's like kind of pathing. He's like dropping 2 traps. He's autoing. And then because of that, he dies as well. Which is weird. Then he comes back to lane. And the first thing he does is he cleanses a ward. Comes back to lane and then he just drops his cleanse on the ward. I don't know. He's just like he's cleansing the vision from the ward. Boom. So now he's down cleanse. I don't. It's very weird. It's very weird to watch. Isn't Busio just inting there? I mean, they wanna fight there. Like, and it's not good. I think that they're like making a play together that is not great. But he could obviously play it in a way where it's a 1-for-1, which is not good for them, but it's better than both dying. He looks rusty after 3 months competitive. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sure, I guess you could make that. You could say that, I guess. Oh, he's just rusty. It's like, how? So what? At what point does he stop being rusty? Then I guess is the question. Do you give him the full year? Do you give him 1 full year of competitive, or do you move the best player in Academy? By Academy caster standards, the best player in Academy is Unforgiven, and Unforgiven was just like pretty good last year in EU, right? Like he was all pro first team in summer split. Like he was playing well. You just move the best player in Academy onto your main team so you can win games.
Send it! Oh, hey. 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 Ah, forget about it. Forget about it. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Oh, crap. Look at him go. Ah, crap. Oh, crap. Ah, she.
Welcome to Costco.
Hey, just hold on.
I love you.
Can you just hold your buns? Okay, can you just hold them? Can you hold mine? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, get those aids in. Is it about Zed? Plan recently. And so what I do is I do a sets of 100. And when I can't make it to 100, I have to hold the weights. and sit there and be like, that's your inner bitch talking! Ah! You little bitch! Ah! So, you know, like 2 days ago, I'm sure you guys probably saw the video where my video was called I'm So Tired, and I really was tired in that moment. I really felt terrible, and it was just kind of like about, you know, just going through this tough time. It's going to be done March 10th, but nonetheless, it was a really, really tough time, and hey, thank you for those bits, and you know, I just kind of described how my heart was feeling in the moment to you guys, and my wife later came to me and just said, hey, you know, what you felt was obviously real. You felt that way, but I did want to make sure that you tell people that you don't just work. That's not all you do in life, and it's true. Every single day, I tried to describe it on the video, but every single day from 4 to 7:30, I am with my kids. I do get to spend at least 3 hours with the family. We eat dinner together. I play with them, jump on the trampoline. I read to them every single day. My wife does watch my videos. And then in the evening, I do go back during this really hard push. I go back until like 9:30, and then spend somewhere between a half an hour to an hour with my wife. And I've been sacrificing about 30 minutes of sleep, so I'm getting somewhere between 7:15 to 8 hours of sleep every single night. And you know, and on the weekends, I only work from like 5 a.m. till 8 a.m. on the weekends. And so I don't work all the time. I do have real relationships. And, you know, when I read this thing right here that this guy just said way up here, where'd it go? Oh, man, right here. He says he's sad because he doesn't have any friends or anyone to be with during this, like, experience, this Carnival experience. You know, I've just been thinking about it, and I've just been having these words rattle in my head a lot lately, which is, these parasocial Twitch relationships, they're not meant to supplant real relationships. I hope you guys take the time, foster real relationships. I hope you have family. If you don't have good family, which not everybody gets good family, I do hope that you know you can make a good family if you don't believe you have a good family. You know, like there is no replacement for the real deal. Do you know what I mean? There is no replacement. And what I mean by that is, like, you can't replace Twitch for friends. You can't replace Twitch for family. You can't replace, say, some set of medication for perseverance, right? Like, it just doesn't last. You can't replace joy with medication. You can't replace, you know, science with life. And so you got to be able to have, I hope that you're taking care of yourself and you're not just doing replacement therapy with this stream. You know what I mean? I want this stream to be a good thing for you, something that helps keep you entertained during your job, gives you hope, makes you feel like you can go out there and crush it. Like, I want you to feel like you have the power to do it, but I am not a replacement for real things. I am just somebody here to encourage you. And I think a lot of times people, they just want the instant item. You know what I mean? They just want things to be better. And so I just want to let you guys know I really appreciate all of you, and I really hope that I can fulfill that need of encouragement, of motivation, of giving you good drive. But I can't fix things that are broken. You know what I mean? I can't fix a broken relationship, you know? And so I do hope that if, for those that are out there, you feel lonely, you feel sad, I am sorry. I can't, you know, I do. It hurts me knowing that you're hurt, but I can't fix it. I hope you know that my life's not just work. I greatly appreciate my wife, my kids, my family. I love my wife. I love my family. I love even my extended family. It's all of this isn't worth it if I don't have them. And at some point, if I have to make a decision which one I'm going to have, sorry, I'm choosing family every single time. There's a lot of influencers that just want eyeballs. Don't get me wrong. I love the numbers lately, okay? I love the fact that when I come on here, there's, you know, it says 501. That is incredible to me. We're 13 minutes into a stream. It says 501. To me, that is incredible. That makes me feel, I'm completely blown away by that. That's incredible. Like, look at this. I'm receiving a text message from somebody named Recycle Poop and Eat It. Let's see what they have to say. Please, brother, I'm your biggest fan, your inspiration. Please unban me. Please unban me, brother. I mean, your name is Recycle Poop and Eat It. I feel like I nailed this one, okay? Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like I nailed it. All right, here's the deal. I'm gonna unban you. I'm gonna unban you just because your name it has me curious. I want you to speak. If you're here, I'm gonna give you a minute to speak. Let's come on, Recycle Poop and Eat It. What did you say that got you banned? We all want to know. Let's do it. Okay, Fonzie also wants to join in on public displays. Oh, everybody wants to join in on what am I going to say? Recycle Poop and Eat It most certainly deserved everything he got just then. Takio! A lot of times when people hand me a video, it's like, hey, react to this video. And it's like 25 minutes long. Dude, it's so long. Look at this. Look at how long this... It's just so long. It's just so long. Look at this. Okay, I'm going to go... Look at this. Hold on. We're going to go over here to studio. Let's go to here. Let's go to here. Look at this. This right here, from C to C++ to Rust to Haskell. This video right here is 40 minutes long. I just want you to look at something here for a second. I just want you to look at it for a second. Let's do from C to... This video is 14 minutes long, and it's 40 minutes long when I react to it, okay? If I watch that one with the paper, it's gonna be like a 2-hour video. Okay, I can't do 2-hour videos. It's inappropriate. All right, hey, look at this one. This one's doing really good. It's almost up to 18-minute average. Tsukanoko! What is a KCN club? Anybody, what is that? Oh, that's a KCN.
Give me the meat and give it to me raw.
I've never been less upset discovering what that means. And Twinkle Toe. Oh my goodness, your name is Twinkle Toes. That's what I do. That's what I do. I do that in co-op. I Twinkle Toe so hard. Did you? Oh, I love your name. I just like to let you know I love your name. I actually love your name. All right, speak. 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 Agree.
We already have C, C++, Rust, and Carbon.
He forgot to go when he heard C++, by the way. By the way, this is Low Level Learning. If you haven't seen Low Level Learning, great YouTuber, good friend. Really appreciate him. He's given me a lot of advice. Well, we've worked out quite a bit. We've actually been trying to figure out a way to even do a little collab.
We're going to talk about what Zig is, where it fits in the systems programming architecture.
I can tell you where it fits in.
Kind of a cool language because it's built around 3 simple principles to keep it as simple as possible.
Okay,
First,
I like it.
The language is meant to have no hidden control.
Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Dude, there's nothing more than I hate in the universe than that. I hate this. I hate this. I hate hidden control flow. And what does it mean by hidden control flow? That's going to be try-catch, right? Try-catch, you don't know where the hell you're going. When a function throws, you don't know where it's going, you don't know where it's going to get to. All you know is that the moment that it throws, your whole program's going to shit the bed and you don't even know why. Here, like, you can imagine, this is your stack, right? This is the stack. And say this function throws. If this function throws, which function is going to catch it above you? And even worse, when it comes specifically to JavaScript, there is nothing that identifies if a function throws. And to me, that is JavaScript's worst design feature. I think I bet you there's been more server 500s. There's been more wasted cycles. There's been more wasted requests. There's been more production problems purely because people do not know that a function does or does not throw. You just don't even know. So you get all these weird production problems, like 1 out of 1,000, and you have no clue why. And it's because some function you just don't even know throws. Let's get back into it. I think Go handles it better. I do think Go handles errors better than JavaScript because even though that Go's handling of errors is clunky, it's still error first. Error as values. There's nothing better than errors as values. You must maintain that as your mantra because the moment that you don't have that, your program just goes to shit. It's just every time. Of course, Go error handling is ugly, but the point is, it's better than not knowing, right? If I had to choose, it goes Rust or like the result syntax, Go, which is like verbose handling, and then guess Guess when air handling. Did you catch it? No, I'm not a great catcher, okay?
There are no hidden memory allocations,
I don't
meaning
like this
that
one.
the code only allocates the memory that you ask it to. Nothing happens.
I know that sounds really nice, but the reality is that if I'm not mistaken, you also have to like you have to give an allocator to the thing, and then after you give an allocator, you have to use the allocator to allocate on like the stack. But for me, I just want to say struct whatever, and it just allocates right there on the stack. If I've defined heap-based objects, then it just heaps, right? Like string in Rust, it's like there's a heap, or a vect in Rust. Like I want that to be a real thing. I don't want to have to think about it all the time. So I'm not a huge fan of this, though I can see why this would be probably really great in a, you know, in the embedded world, to really have like a strong wrapping around what can and how it can be allocated. I could see why that'd be great. Yeah, I tried to write my own memory arena once. It's extremely hard. I wrote it in C for WASM before, like without using BindGen or whatever it's called, and Scriptum. It was really hard. Free
There's
time.
no preprocessor and no macros, meaning the code that you write is the only code that gets put into your program. No.
So this is a really good debate, which is, are macros bad? I would say preprocessor style macros, something that you see in C++, like define, those are effectively the devil. Can we all agree those are the actual devil walking around on the earth, casting those with he wills into the pits of hell? But macros, like Rust style macros, I love them. Every macro I've used from Rust, I am happy it's a macro. Loving it. Loving it, right? And that's because it's a different one. It has a very strict syntax in which you can go to, you can follow. It's very tightly integrated with the LSP. It makes sense. You identify identifiers, expansions, all that kind of stuff. Think about Rust without derived. I know Rust without derived macros would be a terrible language. I wouldn't use it. And I'm not convinced that Zig's version, Zig does effectively have this. What Zig has is something that I would almost argue is more powerful than Rust macros, but also I think harder to visualize, meaning that it has code that executes during compile time and code that executes during runtime. So compile time compiles into more code. So it's like an expansion, but it's written in Zig. So it's a little different.
Zig is in 0100, so it's not even at a 1.0 yet. So everything in this video is subject to
0100 was the most confusing way to say 010. 0100. Nice binary solo there, low level learning.
I would say that Zig is one level above assembly and one level below C. One level above assembly.
One level below C? But I thought we didn't do jokes below the C level. There. Did you just say C and bloat? I mean, I know what he's trying to say, but still, C, I know. That's what I heard. That I was like, C is bloated. What? I think chat's like, what the hell does that mean? What do we mean by C's bloated? I know what he's trying to say. In some sense, Zig feels like a higher level language than C, and it does. It has a lot of higher level abstractions. But it's also, in some sense, I understand what he means by it's lower level.
Granted, there is an imported standard library, but it's just not as bulky as C.
Oh gosh, I did that
So
again.
a level of...
I believe he means stud, right? As we learned yesterday, it's called stud. It's not called standard. No one says standard, okay? We all call it stud, right? Right?
If you install the Zig compiler, which I've already done, we'll make a folder called...
I do have one thing to say right before he keeps on going. He said fun for developer stuff. When I tried to do an HTTP library, I think I was, this must have been 3 months ago when I played with Zig. I had to download the source code and just put it into my project. I hate that. Without a dependency manager, your language can get the out of here, okay? I don't want it. Like, I need dependencies because I don't want to, it's the same reason why I don't use DWM window manager, right? I don't want to be in charge of patching, okay? I don't want to be in charge of patching. I want your code to be your code. I don't want some dingleberry flopping around inside of this third-party code and doing a small little change for us, and then the next thing you know, it's like incomprehensible and incompatible to update ever again. I have a very hard time with that, but we'll see.
video that I'll make later on this. Also, the Zig compiler can translate
Do you hear his dog itching himself in the background? Listen closely. Listen closely. You can hear the dog.
Video that I'll make later on this. Also, the Zig compiler can translate C code into Zig code and also act in as a drop-in archiver C. You can actually write in tests directly into your code so that instead of Zig build run, we can do Zig build test, and that actually invokes every test that we write into.
I think that's really good. I know it's not very hip today to love unit testing. I still am a big fan of unit testing where it makes sense. I love testing. Testing should be built in. I think it's a huge language flop if testing is not like a front and center thing. Like, even if you hate unit testing, you must admit testing should be a pre-thought, not an afterthought. Like, I just think that it's just crazy town. The fact that it's just crazy to me that like testing is not even kind of what Go did with their testing. I wish they would have went harder into their test. I hate that you have to have third-party stuff to get good testing. It just bothers me. It really bothers me. Testing should always be first class every time. I actually so I don't really get I don't get unit test anxiety when I don't have unit tests. What I like unit tests for, honestly, is whenever I come to a piece of code in which I cannot implement within 30 seconds inside my brain, right? Like, it's not like, oh, I know the answer to this thing. For me, that screams I use a unit test as a form of implementation, meaning I implement what I think I want, then I go to a test and try to drive through completion the correctness of it all, right? So I don't like TDD because TDD is you write your tests and then you write your code. I like to write my code, get it kind of how I want. I believe I've done it correctly, and then do some tests to make sure that it's correct, right? To make sure that I've done it. And I rarely test my code, but when I test it, it's in places in which you can't immediately understand the code, right? There's definitely like I don't do red, green refactor. I don't do any of that bullshit. I'm a very practical, pragmatic individual, which means that until it is hard, what third-party thing you need for Golang? Oh, the testing. Like, to get good testing, that T library sucks. It's a bunch of if-elses, and I want assert. I want just simple diff assert. Like Go, every time you do something in Go, it's 3 lines of code, right? It's if this thing is not nil, then fail for this reason, ending squirrely brace. Well, this might be new. Assert equal must be new, but I just want assert. I just want effing assert. I want to say assert that this is equal to that. That is it. Sorry about like this whole like breakdown, getting all excited about testing. I get really excited about testing, okay? By the way, I'm using I forget what unit test framework I'm using for C++, but it's such a nightmare. Like how I have to write my code to be able to unit test it in C++ is such just a doo-doo head. I don't like their how they do abstract classes / interfaces in C++. I don't like any of their patterns. I don't like any of it. Just it's emotionally painful, okay? I would just like to let you know that it's emotionally painful. Do you see this down here? You may not be able to see this down here. i3, by the way. Hey, nice i3. Dude, I love the fact that he has default i3. He straight up has default i3 just like me. Let's go. That's what we're talking about. Get that default. Okay? Default, 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 default.
TACD target, and I could say equals x86 64
Go away, you.
Windows. And this will actually produce a Windows executable.
I like that. That's also
I can't run it
crazy.
because I'm not on Windows, but I think that's a really, really important feature.
It is an important
Zig
feature.
exe, which will do the
I mean, building a modern language today without handling all the different platforms would be just nuts. The fact, again, C++, you have to learn 2 languages. You have to learn C++, which takes, if you don't know the 21 days to learn C++, it takes about 90 years, and then you travel back in time and then kill your previous self, and boom, you've learned C++ in 21 days. But then you have to learn CMake, which is like a whole nother thing. This just needs to be a thing. I've had to ship some C code to some people. I think it's great to do it at least once. I had to ship a driver for this thing. Let's see, is it plugged in? Little Netflix test device, right? So sometimes I just need the test stuff. We call it a little Odroid, just like a simple little basic television processor. So if I just want to test on device, this is something that we just internally test on, because that way I can log on to it and see what happens. I can run debuggers on it, all that kind of stuff. But I had to write a video driver for that thing, and so it's like, it's good. Writing something in C is good. It's good for your soul. It's good for your soul. Everyone should do it. I think everyone should write at least one program in C and experience it. But I can agree with you that C for a brand new person shipping to somebody would be very difficult. But my very first job was embedded programming with C, shipping it to the government. It was extremely difficult, but it taught me a lot. What he's saying is that there's no like strlen or what's it called? Buff copy, whatever. What is it called? Stir copy. What's the thing called where there's like the stir n copy versus stir copy, where you're copying in versus you're copying in with a length. There's like all those different ones, stir copy versus stir n copy or stir copy n. You know what I mean? Like in C, you have to manage between use the length versus stir copy. I forget what it's called. It's been a while now. But there's like use the n ones versus don't use the n ones, and the non n ones just like every time. Printf. Like I always explode myself because of that stupid stir mem buff copy n. Classic stir mem buff copy n.
So I spent literally 2 hours trying.
Oh, and don't forget /n. /n gets me every time. Who here has not been crushed by /n? Who here has not caused some damn buffer problem because you forgot about /n, or not /n, /0 every single time? /0 every time. My life is just one big /0 segmentation fault. It happens every single time. Why did C++ and Zig and Rust call them vectors? Is there like some sort of documentation I'm missing on why it's called a vector? Because like every time I hear the term vector, I assume it's because it's based off the mathematical idea of a 1 by n matrix, calling it a vector. But every time I hear a vector, I always think like vec3 or a vec4, right? Like, are we talking about a three-dimensional one, or are we talking about like a quaternion stored in a vector? I think it's, I know, just for me, I don't understand why it's called a vector, because I always associate a vector with like a constant time. Yeah, get the hell out of here, Benny, with all your C++. Benny comes in here trying to talk about C++, and so we banned that ass. So get this, like I'm over here and I'm all like, hey, something about vectors, and then Benny comes in here, starts yapping his mouth about C++. Karen, we got C++ started vector. Oh. Karen, I gotta go pick up a laptop. I may or may not have thrown one out of a window that needs to be refurbished. Do you know any refurbishers of laptops? Get Betty back in! I keep going back and forth on this one. Sorry, I wanted to pause it before he says his thing. I really do go back and forth on this. At first, I really do think TypeScript is probably the best for a beginner. It's easy to learn. You can move really quickly. You can get somebody seeing something, see it happening. It becomes quite simple. And then you can go into like a harder, better language. Like understand the fundamentals of programming and then learn about something that's not programming, right? Or concepts of programming. That way it's like a little easier. It's an easier transition. I keep saying this, but I keep kind of going back to this idea that, am I wrong about that? I almost feel like I'm wrong about that. And what I mean by that is that if you think about it, there's concepts and there's unknown knowns in world, right? Like I forget, I think was it Donald Rumsfeld? I forgot who said this, right? There's known knowns, there's known unknowns, and then there's unknown unknowns. But there's actually a fourth category, which is unknown knowns. Like things you know that you don't realize you know. And one of the reasons why Rust is super hard is because you come into it with unknown knowns. You have this like construct of how you view the world, and you will build and create software in this like unknown this unknown known way. And it's just kind of like for me, it's a huge gut thing, right? I'm very, very fast at like building software, and that's because I kind of have like this internal guide, but I don't really know why I do it anymore. I just know that I build it this way because it feels right. And I'm sure there's better ways to build software, blah, 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 blah. But when it comes to Rust and learning a language for the first time, how much do you start like developing that internal guide that just makes Rust even harder to build? You know what I mean? Yeah, instincts would be a good term for unknown knowns, right? You don't know why you know the thing, but you feel like this is inherently right. And so I'm very curious if that actually makes it harder to learn Rust. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe it is a lot harder. I don't know. I actually don't know. I can't say that it's good, bad, or not. Yeah, I'm curious about Zig, because obviously there's the whole null problem. There's the whole, there's still errors, or still kind of raw errors. I don't know if they have enums as in like some types. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know, like, I don't know if you get the same. I worry about it. I'm not sure. I don't buy that Zig's a great type-safe first language. I think TypeScript's a better type-safe. My big problem with Zig just in general is that C has a huge momentum behind it. And I think for Zig to win, it's going to take a series of really motivated contributors to actually make Zig have all the things it needs to compete with, say, C in the embedded world or Rust in the embedded world, right? Like, those things are very important and they're very, very hard to do, right? Like, to get enough motivated people to do all that, it's a lot of work. And so I think that Zig, will continuously fight against trying to catch up until they reach a mass of people that's fast enough. I think embedded is a great hurdle for Zig. I think Zig's best argument is that it's a good replacement for C, and it feels mostly like C. It's less hard than Rust. I would agree with that. It took me less time to get something up and running in Zig. But I don't know. I still have this hard part with is that until Zig has a big enough momentum in the open source world, and its tooling has proper package management and all the things that's really needed to make it really slick, I think it's just going to struggle. I think it's going to struggle. And the hard part is that there's so many super motivated Rustaceans that anytime Zig catches up, Rust is already caught up plus a year ahead. And so I think that's just going to take a lot of effort. You know what I mean? I think if you're very competent at C, switching to Zig is easier. So maybe that's kind of the play, is that you want more type safe stuff. And so therefore Zig is just like a great natural transition from C. And also Zig has a better compiler interaction story with C, right? I don't know if it has like a drop-in replacement or an easy interaction with C, but I swear I read something where it's very easy to interrupt between the two and linking and all blah, 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 blah. So, very curious about it. Is this the Rust killer? I don't think it is. I think Rust is going to win, because I think Rust's biggest strength isn't that it's a systems programming language. I think Rust's biggest strength is that it can act like a general purpose programming language. Do you know what I mean? I think that's its biggest strength. And that's going to be really hard to beat, because you have system capability general purpose programming language. And so I think that that's really amazing. I tried Carbon, but they didn't have a compiler. What am I supposed to do? Write it on a piece of paper and imagine how it feels? Oh no, right? Like, what am I supposed to do with Carbon? Oh yeah, look at this Carbon code, it's incredible. One day when I can execute this, it's gonna be amazing, right? It's just like, I don't even know. Yeah. You know what IBX reminds me of, right?
Welcome.
Do you know what it reminds me of?
I love you.
I can tell you. I know this may sound a little bit offensive, but the first thing I think of when I hear IBX is irritable bowel extreme. You know, like, we got this bathroom for you. You can take it. You can use it however you want. Enjoy some bathroom ramen while you figure out your irritable bowels, okay? You have a good one, though, IBX. Baby, appreciate that. You know I do. You know all I want to do is gently touch your body. Thank you. I'm not supposed to... Karen, you know when I said gently touch your body, I was talking about his HTTP post request. Hey, one wobbly badger. mistake. Hey, by the way, Beasto, I don't know if you saw my latest video. I kid you not, my latest video coming out the rip. It starts off with me like, let's hop in a CPP on you, and then boom. Beasto, don't say that. It's gonna make it into a YouTube video. In a YouTube video. Thank you, Beasto. Appreciate you. I read everything you say. So this is like my whole take on TDD and planning out your code and all that stuff. I really don't like that. And what I mean by that is that when you're first starting out, I think you plan more your code, you write it out, you think about it, you draw boxes, you do that kind of stuff. But then eventually you develop this like internal guide. You develop this like, all right, this is what I want. Here's the parts that are touching external systems. Here's the parts that are touching things that I need to just pull out, abstract over, and be able to like IOC, be able to like take those and mock them out if I need to do something, if I need to be able to pump in artificial data into the system. How am I going to do that? You kind of think ahead because you've done it so many times. And then for me, it's a lot about kind of exploring the problem as I go. Because whenever I write something out on paper, here's the real deal, is that I've never once been able to write out all the problems. I write out an idea, I start implementing it, and guess what? I was completely wrong about something, and it ruins the rest of all my planning every single time.
I love you.
And I don't like that. I don't like being wrong and then having to rethink about everything. I feel like it's a super slow cycle, and it happens every single time. I don't want to have to do that. Instead, I feel like it's much easier to just explore the problem in code. Really go through, make everything kind of into what I want it to be, then throw it away, and then rebuild it into something that's great, right? Because at that point, I know where the edges are, I know what's kind of happening, I know what I'm missing, and then, you know, then I will do something like testing. Then I'll do something that's more involved, because at that point, I have the clear picture. And I really do feel like people try to plan up front too heavily. I think any good piece of software needs to be written twice, minimum 3 times for really goodness. It just always ends up that way. I've met very few people that will say differently. I don't trust anyone that says they can actually do it first try. Like, I don't. I'm sorry. You have to be, I don't know. I don't even know what you have to be able to do that first try. Refactor, refactor, refactor. It's just part of life. Writing code, and throw it away, and it's very good. I think people don't take enough advantage of that, because here's the deal. You can write super fast, right? When you're not caring about all the edge cases, you're not caring about all that stuff, you just simply want to get through the happy path, do it. That way you know the happy path, you know where the errors are, then you can go back and fix them all. I don't know, just a thought, just a feeling, just how I think about things, you know? I do that all the time, especially with what I'm building right now. I built out something, and then I built it out a second time. I'm actually planning on building it a third time here in the next day or two, just because I see some changes that I might need to make. It's just, you know, just the life I live. And I also hate TDD. I really do hate TDD. I think TDD is a disaster. Do not start with your test first. Don't start. Anyone that tells you to start with your test first, there's only been one time in my 20 years effectively of writing software that it's worked. I'm not building the hot Beasto. Beasto, stop! There's only one time that it's worked. And the reason why it worked is that we had to plan a search structure, a data structure, out. And that data structure that we planned out, because it had to be used for searching. Obviously, a data structure makes a lot of sense to think ahead of time, and we planned out everything we could for just this one data structure. The implementation of it didn't really matter. I knew exactly what I needed to do for all the operations. Take this data, turn it into this data, and make sure it works, right? It's a very one-to-one operation. It existed by itself. It's a very, like, minimal place. Therefore, TDD could kind of work only simply because it was such a very small surface area. It's kind of like building, you know, it's like designing your own sorting algorithm. You could easily write a test for that before you build your own sorting algorithm because you know the sort, how it should look. Spend 3 days exploring and then try planning. And just see the difference it makes. The difference will be incredible. Just try it once. Just try it once. Go and build something to throw it in the garbage and then come back and try planning it. You will find that it's just incredible. I don't write code to be simple. I don't write code to be complex. I write code to try to be isolated. That is it. It's not about complexity or simplicity because some pieces of code are just complex. That is all there is to it. You can't unwrite complexity. Just take a CSV generator, for instance. Right now, I have about 20 different events coming from 2 separate data sources that have to take these and align time-based events and different machines up in the cloud and take all of those and try to like line video data over the top of it of what happens in the video. But guess what? There's nothing simple about that operation. And building a CSV that can have a time orientation to it and to be able to line stuff, it's just never simple. There's nothing you can do to do that, right? Like there's no simplicity about the code. The code is awful, but it's isolated. Very isolated. The TDD means to write your tests and think about the structure of your code first, execute those, turn it red, turn it green. Red, green, go. Red, green, go. Red, green, go. I don't write tests first because I don't want to confirm. I don't want my test to dictate the structure of my code. I want the isolation and understanding my code to dictate how my tests are written. The thing that makes nice to write your code as if they could always be tested is that, or to write code in that kind of fashion, is that you'll pull out external dependencies and you'll make them into something that you can either dependency inject or you can runtime inject, IOC style. TDD is great if you're writing a library and you know the API you want and the functions. Yeah, but that's the thing is like, Greg, even for Leptos, how much of your API and things have changed? Like in Leptos, we could argue is not a terribly complex API. I mean, it's pretty complex, but it's not terribly complex, and even that would be super hard to do. If you can do TDD and it just works for you, you should do TDD. Here's the real thing. If you can write code and you can write good code that can exist in production for a year, use whatever tool you can. If you can do that, I don't care how you came up with the code. I don't care if it involves you sitting butt naked in your bedroom for 12 hours straight. Whatever it took for you to develop good code, you develop good code your own way, okay? It's just like art. Art can be done however you want it to be done, long as the end product is something that that speaks to an individual. You go for it. I don't care how you do it, long as the end result is good. That is it. Earholes McGee, take them pants off long as you're making good code. That's just how if you smoke weed to make good code, I don't care. In general, how much we rely on just third-party libraries, right? That's why, I mean, if you look at this is even. This thing is downloaded more than one time. Okay, this is a tragedy. This exists. Okay, this is real. This is not a joke. This is real. Sometimes you should just, like, shit. Like, that's bad. Okay? Tragedy? Yeah, not nice thing. Okay, travesty. Okay, I said G. Okay, shut up. Okay, tragedy. It's a gigantic travesty. Okay? I prefer Izzod. Okay, I can see that. Yeah, but Izzod is a great library. Yeah, I mean, Izzod is more performant. Let's be real here. We all use Izzod because Is-Even is kind of like the legacy version. Izzod is just super fast. I do have to say one more thing about TDD. We always say we like to use unit tests as a way to like help with refactoring. You run unit tests as part of refactoring. The problem about that is that, to me, I'm going to be real here. I feel if you can write a unit test that lasts before and after a refactor, part of me feels like your unit test is too broad. It's getting closer to an integration test. Yeah, that's fair enough. We call those integration tests for stuff. Yeah, exactly. It's like I feel like if you can refactor and you don't need to change your unit test, like how'd you do that? I think that's because some people test on different things. For me, I only test at like the absolute unit level, or I test at the integration level. Like I love snapshot testing. Snapshot testing is really good, but here's the two things you have to consider when snapshot testing. Snapshot testing is the absolute unit. Okay, hold on. Okay, hear me out on this one. So testing in general, let me give you a little something about testing. When it comes to snapshot/integration testing, something that's extremely important that I feel like people just never quite grasp is that when it comes to snapshots, they work really, really well if your underlying source is not shifting. When you have an underlying source that shifts, a snapshot test can be really difficult because if they refactor, you've effectively invalidated your snapshot test. For me, how I do snapshot tests is that I actually snapshot input, I snapshot output, and I run it through my program like a full integration test. And what I do is I also build my program in such a way that I can actually suck out those snapshots. You know what I mean? So I actually just execute the program. It creates the snapshot at this new updated piece of data, and then I should be able to run them and prove that I can just run a test and get the same stuff out. When I have this input, I should be able to get this output. I love snapshots, but they're also a huge pain in the ass as data shifts. Chat, have you considered reading the friendly manual? You know, see, the thing about the Primogen is that when he opens Vim, he doesn't even check the help menu. See, when I wake up every morning, I do 10 Hail Vim help menus, go through a new section every day, because I personally love to know the entire help manual. When you ask me a question, I respond with a help tag. And that's it, because I want you to find your way, but I'll show you the door. Oh, T-Bone? Yeah, me and T-Bone, we go way back. Dyslexia go hard. Dude, I've been training on monkey type people. So I'm making a video called 250. What does 250 times at monkey type do for typing skills? And I'm not going to lie to you. These last 10 have been just disheartening. My dyslexia has been at an all-time high lately. And it's been like really emotionally difficult for me. I keep reading words incorrectly. Look at this. I've fallen off. Yeah, I decided effectively in 1 month, I'm going to do 250 times to see what it does. And it's been, dude, my dyslexia has been so effing bad lately. I can't stop misreading things. I don't know what it is. Oh, it's actually been really, it's been really emotionally difficult for me.
Rust is 16 years old, has more packages than NPM did in 2012, has first-class support on all enterprise.
Did I just hear Rust has more packages than Node did 11 years ago? Did I hear that correctly? Was my ears just kind of goofing there for a quick second? I'm not sure if more packages necessarily means it's better. Just saying. I don't know. That's just the strangest measurement for why a programming language is either good or bad. Does Rust have is even crate?
It's been the most loved language according to the largest developer survey on the planet for 7 years.
Who was the person that made the joke that said, what was it? That Rust is the most loved language according to a website where people who don't know how to program go to ask questions about programming.
Rust isn't flashy, it's boring. You know what isn't?
I actually find Rust not to be boring. Go is boring. Go's great because it is boring.
Welcome to Costco.
I love you. Sorry, I had to turn off alerts again. Go is boring. I find Rust to be fantastical. I have a hard time believing this whole boring argument versus like how amazing Rust really is. Like Rust is very not boring, right? What you can do with Rust is like a thrill ride. Like it's incredible. I don't necessarily find it boring.
Linus.
Hey, by the way, thank you very much for that raid, Finite Singularity. I have paused this just for you. This is how I feel about you for that nice raid. Thank you very much for that wonderful raid. I hope that my welcome message really brings everybody in to the fold. Is it Linus or Linus? I've always called him Linus. Is it Linus?
Rust is not the first language to be tried as an alternative to C to write the Linux kernel. C++ was proposed 25 years ago, but...
I'm glad that they didn't say yes to C++. C++, with unique pointer, C++ isn't that bad. But C++, I spent 2 days trying to figure out a logging system at Netflix for the television, and I just kept going in circles, and I still don't know how it works, and I just don't get it. When you combine like typedef macros and that, I swear, I feel like when I look at C++, I actually think I'm a stupid developer every single time. I feel like either you've been doing C++ for 20 years and it's easy, or you just feel stupid. I don't feel like there's any in between because I never feel like I get it. I always am just like, what is going on here? How many things do I have to hold in my head at the exact same time to understand this code? Like, I just don't I just sometimes, but then sometimes it's really easy, right? Like some C++ you read and you're like, okay, I get this. I hop over here. Everything feels really, really nice. And then all of a sudden it stops feeling nice and you have no idea what happened. And you just feel like you fell off of like a cruise ship and the cruise ship's gone. You're just floating in the ocean, wondering where the hell you're at. Isn't Rocket also? Rocket is fairly deprecated, or it doesn't get very many updates, right? When I've been using Rocket, or every time I look at Rocket, it hasn't changed much. And it just... Yeah, there's also an RC in there, which also makes that funny. But they don't move very fast, right? It's really coming down to Actix and Axum. I wish they could just... I wish Actix and Axum could just merge, and then there's just one that you use. That's it. Just use one. That's one thing I've loved about the Rust community for the most part, is that there's almost always just one library that you use. CSV, you use CSV Reader by Burnt Sushi. When you do JSON, you pretty much use Saturday, right? Like, for the most part, there's just like a built-in line. When you want to go async, you just use Tokyo, right? That's what we do. That's how you do it. That's the thing about Rust that I've really appreciated, is the minimal amount of frameworks. I know it's kind of the opposite of the beginning of this, is that there's almost always one item, and that is it. Tokyo! Right? Like, you get to scream Tokyo, you get to use Tokyo, it feels fantastic. Whereas with Rust, or I mean, with JavaScript, if you just search up, I'll do it right now. If you just search up and go, what do you go? You go, top CSV parsers JavaScript. I love this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this top 10 in 2022. 10. Why do I have light theme on? 10. There's actually 10 of them. Skipper CSV, Ya CSV, Nest CSV parser, CSV parser, CSV to JSON, JSON to CSV, Papa parser, XLSX spreadsheet JS parser, fast. This one wins, of course. It's fast. Damn, it's fast. It's fast. Fast CSV parser. Anywho, JavaScript's ecosystem is terrible trash. This is the one thing I wish Rust would do a little bit better. I feel bad because it exists, so far as I can tell, in two places. There's the web backend, or like the CRUD routing backend stuff. So you got Actix, Axum, Rocket. That seems to be the big three. Then you also have front end. You have Leptos. You also have Sycamore, Dionysus, or something like that. And to me, it feels like you should really only have two. You should have Leptos and you. I mean, I guess someone's saying Sycamore, you could have Sycamore. I don't know, but I like Greg. I like Greg a lot, and so I just want Leptos to win. But, you know, like, you and Leptos are so different that they can be distinct. You know, you just use whatever Mateo... Oh, yeah. Mateo's super talented, so just always use what Mateo uses. I'd agree with that with JavaScript.
No SQL injection, there are no invalid data pathways in your code, no memory errors, no null point.
Isn't SQL injection still a possibility? Like, if you just have a string replace, isn't that just more of a thing you can do versus... Isn't that like a you problem? Like, squeal injections are just simply because you allowed yourself to write code in which just does string expansion, right? Yeah, it's just like memory leaks are still possible in Rust. It's a you problem. It's a you problem. Who does Mr. U work for? It's a you problem, right? So, like, memory leaks come because you're not removing items out of a hash map. That's a you problem. Rust can't protect stupid. Yeah, exactly. Nothing can protect you against stupid. It still happens. Bugs are still possible in Rust. I just find there's less bugs in Rust. Not even just box leak. Box leak is an intentional staticizing of your data, right? You're saying this data will live forever. I know it will live forever because it makes sense. And I think box leak is actually a really useful thing to use. I use it while doing front-end frameworks. Leptos is that I put all my signals that are kind of like my app controlling signals into a single struct and box leak it. So I just have it forever. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. But if you're box leaking to get out of a complicated Rust program, you're just being stupid. There's a big difference between stupid and good plan. And that's a very, very good reason to stop programming. Maybe take a little break. Go read a little production Rust from zero to production. You know, recenter yourself for a second and then come back at it. I don't know if you heard that, but iterators do compile down to for loops, which is magic. For those that don't know how amazing that is, here, I'll show you. It's just, sorry, I go. It's just something that is just so good. Rust 4, TypeScript dev, jump in here, iterators. Here, check this thing out right down here. I kind of made this little example just so people understand what it means. Okay, so if you're writing something in Rust, and you say you write this iterator right here, you have a vector that you turn into an iterator, that you map it, you filter it, you map it, and you collect it back into an iterator. What it's effectively going to get compiled is something that looks like this. It's going to look like a for loop that maps in place, that checks the filter in place, that does the last mapping, and then pushes that into a vector. You can imagine that's effectively what it looks like. Whereas if you do the exact same code in JavaScript right here, that's not what it gets compiled, if you will, compiled into. What actually gets compiled into is you create 3 separate functions, map 1, filter 1, map 2. These are kind of like closures, right? They're closure functions. They still are, the Lambda functions are still functions, they're just lexically bound to this. And then you have something that looks like this. You have A, and then a second array, B. This gets pushed in, map A1 into B, create another array, C, or a list really, filter that, push it in, create another array, D, list really, and then do the second map, right? Like this is much, 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 much different than the other way, right? Like it's not the same. They are not the same because they're not iterators, right? These are not iterators. They're iterating, which is a very big difference. So that's one thing that I just, whoopsies, what did I just do? I think I just did something. Help me, Tom Cruise. They're just much, much different. This creates iterators, the other one creates iterating and copying. So it's just different. Map and filter create new lists. They just, GC does it. Yeah, don't care, GC does it. So that's what I love about it, and that's one thing that it's very hard to understand. He didn't talk about try-catch. Let's see if he talks about it. If not, I'm gonna go hard on a try-catch rant.
Go was not fast enough for Discord, or it was, but every 2 minutes there would be these latency spikes. Those who have worked on distributed...
I still am 100% convinced this is a programmer error and not necessarily a Go error. If you're using JSON, you should just expect it. Instead, Rust amortizes these spikes and just runs slightly slower, right? I think this is a U problem. I think this is a system-level problem.
Systems already know what the problem is, because no matter what the language, this kind of spiky graph always has the same culprit. Garbage collection pausing.
No, that's not the culprit, that's a symptom. The prognosis, or the root cause of this, or not the prognosis, but the root cause of this, is that your brain code is causing memory allocation. If you wish to remove the garbage collection, you need to remove the places that you allocate the same object over and over. That's what you do. If you can pull those things up, you will do a good job. It sounds like a skill issue. Is this like the new thing people say constantly? Why am I getting skill issue tossed every single time? You can remove a huge amount of these by just simply having object pools. And not only that, but you actually also reduce the amount of runtime memory by doing that. Because what ends up happening in these languages is you go from like 200 to 400 to 200 to 400 to 200 to 400, or you can run it like 220 and you'll run like 220 to 260, 220 to 260. You'll really reduce what you have to do by just being a bit smarter about how you pool and use your object. People just seem to, it's a lost art. Object pools are a lost art. And obviously, something about this is every 2 minutes seems a little sus. You know what I mean? I don't think Go has a strict timer. It seems a little sus. Can we agree? That's a little, talk about a little sus.
Rust was able to outperform their hand-tuned...
Did you see that? Go down. I called it. I called it, right? Like, what you're, look at this. I called this exactly. Which is, you're gonna use your CPU more on average because you're distributing this because Rust just drops this in line. That's all it does. It drops it in line. So you're not changing this fundamentally. You're just changing how often something does. So you just need to change how you're doing this to bring this entire line down. Bring the whole effing line down. You want me to do a Dev Hour podcast with TJ and Old Man Judo? Old Man Judo can tell us some show. Old Man Judo, do you want to do a podcast one of these days? Jump on and just talk to us about the awesomeness of Go?
Nginx was not fast enough. The fastest industry standard web proxy written in C was not fast enough. Pingora, their pure Rust replacement, uses 70% less CPU and 67% less RAM while serving 1 trillion requests a day.
So again, this is one of those things where I think there's a huge miss here. Often a rewrite, you don't support nearly as many features, and this is like a very specific implementation for a very specific thing. So I can't take this argument as a good reason for Rust. I think this is a good reason to write software for yourself. Sometimes, we just talked about this earlier, inventing the wheel sometimes has really good reason to invent your own wheel, because not all wheels are equal. Some wheels can do a lot of things. Sometimes you just want the one wheel to do the one thing you're doing really, really, really well, and that is it. And so sometimes when I see this kind of stuff, I feel like it's cheating, because you can't compare these two things. And so it's like, yeah, you rewrote it, but you rewrote it for one use case. Exactly, Vito. You could attach a lawnmower to your car, and it would just destroy the speed of your lawnmower.
Rust is as fast as C, and in a world where most popular languages are meant...
Is that true? Is Rust as fast as C? I mean that in like the... Like, is it... I think you can write better code in C. I think you can... Ultimately, you can write faster code in C. Because you don't have to... Like, you do not have to have an ARC mutex. If you're doing multi-threaded stuff, you can technically have a non-ARC, non-mutex accessing of a shared array, right? You can just go, hey, I just want to access this thing super fast. Here you go, here's an offset. Like, you can do things in C that just, like, aren't... It's not rusty. I'm not saying it's good, but again, remember, inventing a wheel specific to your problem versus, a generic solve it's always going to be a bit faster. But I also, if I'm gonna write code and I had to choose either C or Rust, I'm just going to assume I'm writing it in Rust. Unless if you can give me a really compelling reason to write it in C, I'm just doing it in Rust. Can you do that? No. Unsafe blocks do not. Unsafe does not make Rust that unsafe. Got him! We got him! Oh my goodness! Karen, normally I would throw a laptop off the balcony. We'd get Judo to escort this man outside the building, but due to his homeless lookingness and the general flea-infested items, we're gonna let him go with his laptop and his Phil's coffee and the kombucha that he has in his backpack. I don't know how he has a waterproof backpack, but somehow he got a gallon of kombucha in his backpack. Just let the homeless man go, okay? Well, nobody knows why he's here. You just gotta let him go, okay? We're gonna escort him by putting a 12-pack of Steel Reserves outside, and hopefully he frolics towards it, because he's clearly a disgusting, deranged individual. Got him! I used to smoke meth, and there was a time I've drank a couple Steel Reserves, so I just would like to let you know, I've been there, okay? I've been there. Okay, there's only one thing worse than those people. Yeah, that you pretty much nailed it. I've been there, okay? Thanks.
Rust dominates.
Is that true about Python? I thought most of the things you did in Python, like, unless if you're using Python strictly, what I mean by that is, like, if you're using pandas or NumPy or any of these things that are just drop-down C running items, is this always true? Like, I feel like if you're doing a for loop in Python, yeah, it's real slow. But if you're using all the C-based stuff, Python's fast. Bare Python is, yeah, like Python is crap. Okay, 3.11 fixed a lot. Sorry. It's just, I was just curious about that. I've been writing Python for 20 years. It's not true for a beginner. Yeah, and for me, it just seems a little. The problem with is that Python developers like to do weird pseudo OOP stuff. Yeah, that's bad. OOP stuff is dramatic. I did write something that had to do hundreds of thousands of points in Python, and I tried a couple different solutions, and OOP was like so slow. It was crazy. It was just straight crazy. I mean, I agree with the sentiment. I generally agree with the sentiment, but I think Rust is slow. Right, Rust is slow. We can all agree with that one on this axis, but it is fast in the sense that it has low mental overhead. By the way, idempotent and perennial just simply mean it's going to work for a long time and you get the same result out. That's fancy person speak for shit's going to work for a long time. You guys recently read the article we should do Rust 2.0. This is funny. Because I mean, because this video is like 6 months old, and someone just recently wrote that we should do Rust 2.0. They got met with a lot of hate, but nonetheless, I mean, they brought up great points. But it's really funny. Like, is there going to be a Rust 2.0? You know, I don't know.
Rust is ready now. Are you?
In general, I agree with that sentiment. That I think in the next, however long we have on this sweet, sweet Earth, I think Rust is going to make a commanding amount of our time. And no matter how we like it, whether you hate it or love it, I think it's gonna be around for quite some time. There is a curve that exists, and the curve that I don't know that exists about Rust that I really wish you would have touched on is there's always a cost to everything. If you want to use Go, the cost is obviously that you kind of write in a boring language. There's a lot of if error does not equal nil type of writing. There's a lot of boilerplate that you kind of have to hide around. And it's like, not a huge fan of it, blah, 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 but it's still there. But the onboarding time is really simple. You can be productive in Go pretty quick. I think some of the third-party libraries are written pretty shitty in Go. Like when I look at Gorilla WebSockets, I know the WebSocket protocol by heart practically. And when I look at that code, I can't even figure out what the hell is going on. It's very, like, some are just terrible, but ultimately, in the end, Go is really simple. Onboarding time is fast. I figured it out. Rust, on the other hand, it's harder. It's longer. It takes a long time to get up and running to do something your first time in Rust. And then you have to get up and running like 3 separate times before you really know what you're doing. But I'm really curious about one thing when it comes to Rust. What is the 6-month cost? Meaning that let's say you build a service and you've been maintaining it for 6 months and a new big feature comes in. What is the cost then? The developers that are familiar, they're good, they can move quick in Rust. Do you think that they will move faster and implement features better than other languages? I might argue that I think that's where Rust will really shine, is not in the initial, but actually in the 6 months. See, I disagree with these things. I actually think it's the opposite. I find right now that as a project grows, I find TypeScript to be significantly harder to extend as time goes forward. I'm not saying, no, Greg, it's not even a joke. This is a real question. Greg, you've actually been building a longer term project. Do you feel that adding new things has been easier or harder as time's gone on? I feel like it's almost, for me, at least, especially with TypeScript, I find TypeScript to be extremely difficult. As a project grows, I find it harder and harder to add features because you can cut so many separate things. Whereas with Rust, it's a lot harder to cut corners, and I feel like you get trapped into doing it right. And I often discover I'm doing it wrong sooner. And so I feel like there's definitely something there that the 6-month game might be a lot better than the 3-month game. See, if Rust is going to be a lot more played in the future, how does that affect the conclusion that of software is in decline video? Ooh, that's great. That is really good. I don't think it affects it. I think what Rust will do is it will give people more security, but bugs still exist. I think no matter how you go, bugs still exist. For those that are wondering, Greg said it's been easier. Greg says he's really liking it. So I think Greg is probably right. He's writing a pretty big project. That is a good question. How will the software is in decline versus Rust being adopted? How will this affect it? It might affect the curve quite a bit. It's just easier to get things right in Rust in general. It's just harder to get it right the first time. I know Theo said the opposite in his Don't Learn Rust video. He also said that his Don't Learn Rust video was categorically his worst hot take. So I am very curious about that. What is the 6-month cost versus what is the 1-month cost lower but the 6-month cost better? I honestly don't know, and I can't recommend it that hard for that reason. What is the 9-month cost? What happens when Rust gets you pregnant? It's a good question. I assume you will deliver safely. No one will be able to access that mutex. Clearly have a lock on it. What does the 69-month cost? Imagine you're giving birth to the Dr. Yell Tokyo. Anyone has a great Rust course recommendations? I'm actually giving a Rust course for people who know TypeScript. March 10th. Rust likely right now biases towards engineers who are good. Right now it's not. It's just becoming the cultural zeitgeist right now. So 2 years ago, the people who learned it were learning it while Rust was still kind of in its not necessarily cool phase. It was just hard and hard to begin with, you know. And so these people were doing it because they loved it. And usually, kind of hardcore engineers do the harder things, right? I think you're real. You know what I mean? But it is true for both server and front end parts, because I feel like Rust on the front part. Yeah, I think the Rust on the front end part, I think the biggest thing that's holding it back isn't Rust, it's WASP. The ability to debug Rust. No, will your course be on YouTube? No, it's going to be streamed live, and then it'll be on front end masters. I think Rust biases towards people who like more expressive paradigms. I hated Rust, okay? Obviously, I hated Rust. I hated Rust so much, I even had an entire character designed to make fun of Rust, okay? Rusted. He was a real character. You could still see the emotes. I'm just saying that with that, I became a huge fan of Rust. I hate it. You think I'm gonna get had by that? You think I'm gonna get had? I never saw that because it was XDQ. I saw that. There's a reason why I have autoplay off, okay? I'm not getting had by that. Is that it's also just C++. Style. I don't have a... Is that the Deno one? I haven't used it. I mean, I like...
Fresh pair of these. 3 amateurs trying to rickroll you. I'm on another level.
Got I just died of Limbo. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That was... what am I supposed to do? Buried. Happy President's Day. If you're in America, if you're not in America, happy not President's Day, or whatever day you have. Canada probably has some sort of day today. Everyone squeeze your butt cheeks together! So, by the way, my wife wants to play more video games with me. Should we do a sweet video game? Balls deep in a glass of milk. You know, we've all been there. Non-stop, every day, revolving door.
What?
What? Oh my goodness, dude! You guys, dude, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my lifetime. Oh my goodness, this makes so much sense. We should actually store old Commodore 64 datasets as audio recordings on YouTube. I never even thought about that. What happens if you could stream like... Oh my, there's so many cool things. Yeah, the compression format would be interesting, but I think you'd have to use like FFmpeg or something to like put it into a raw bitmap format. You could also add error correction bits. Yeah, you could do a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, you could do Huffman encoding, all that fun stuff, right? That's Huffman. No, that's not Huffman. That's, gosh, what is it? Which one's the one where it's like bit 1, it's like 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Yeah, they're all powers of 2. What's that encoding called? Oh, where's the alert? Where's the alert sound? Does anybody know where that alert went? I'm not gonna fall for dragons. You should know that by now. I don't fall for dragons.
Do you like dragons?
No, not. That's too old. Yeah. Dragon Bees is not. We know. That's cool.
You waited for nothing.
Got double hat. I have room temperature IQ. do we have time for one more little thing? Oh, try catch. Can I do a try catch? Okay, I'll do this one. This was like a really long video, and I'm actually curious how well it went. Nice. That's pretty good. We're almost sitting at 18 minutes on average. That's crazy to me. 18 minutes on average. Not Smooth Brain. You got $2 out of that fool. Got him. Would you be able to review my Rust Coast with Leptos? No. Discipline is freedom? Yeah, I mean, it's simple. It's simple. When you're in control of your life, you are free. You're not being just driven by however you feel in the moment. Why is discipline freedom? It's extremely simple. You wake up every day at 5 a.m. That's what you're going to do. And when you feel like you're not going to do it, you don't do it. You're like, oh, I don't want to do it anymore. You're not free. You're just simply, you're like subject to your body's desire. And that is it. Like every single time you want to do something, you're subjected to it. And that's that. You know what it says? I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live like that at all. It almost feels like there's like three parts, right? There's like the front brain, the one that knows the right thing to do. Then there's like the lizard brain that's like, let's lay down, let's lay down. You know, like that's the one that's always like, go to sleep, come on. Then you're gonna eat a big bowl of, then you're gonna eat cereal. I have a 9-year-old boy. I'm going to be able to play basketball with him when he's in high school. I have a 1.5-year-old daughter. I'm going to make sure I can play basketball with her when she's in high school. That's one of the Decepticons that lands on your planet. It's like, hey, man. Hey. Well, just one more game of Call of Duty. Come on. Just one more. Come on. It's okay. You totally got this. Trust me. You're going to feel so good. So good. So soon. Don't worry. You got this. Bro, I'm chilling with him right now. No, I'm not falling for whatever it is.
The only problem is, they are not gonna want to play basketball with you, old man.
Yeah, I think try-catch has control flow. The general idea of try-catch being bad is there's two primary reasons. One is just that, like, one, code aesthetic-wise, you're always adding this index. And in general, you don't know why something has an exception. Now, with Python, I know I'm so flustered now. Python, one nice part about Python is you can go read the docs and find what exceptions something calls or could potentially throw, but nonetheless, you have to use it as a control flow. And that is really deeply interesting. And then you can add things like fire or try-catch situation. You have this control flow that's really unclear what it actually does. TypeScript specifically is probably the most egregious of it all, is that TypeScript has try-catch, but you don't know what throws there. There's a whole bunch of you right now that when you looked at JSON.parse and I wrapped it with the try-catch, you went, oh yeah, JSON can throw an exception when it's not correct. Like, that just dawned on you in this moment that it can do that. That's difficult. That's crazy. It's actually crazy that it can do that. That you don't even know what function you're calling that could just explode at any point in time. And to me, that's truly terrifying. I can't do that. It just makes me deeply uncomfortable that you might just lose at any moment. Like, TypeScript, just silent fails, right? You just get a nan back out. When you read from a file, silent error. You don't even know that there's an error. When you read an argument, it's just a silent error. You don't even know there's an error, right? Like, those are the problems when it comes to other languages. That's why Rust is becoming a very loved language, because it forces you to think about things ahead of time. Not, I definitely need a little bit on that one. Rust is my love language. So that's what I mean by try-catch is a huge mistake. You don't know what errors. You don't know where it errors. You don't know who's going to catch it. Your control flow is insane. That's why it sucks. Why shouldn't you implement it in TypeScript? You can't guarantee that it's going to happen. You're going to have to wrap every single function in a result. You don't have pattern matching. You can't lift it out. There's no lift operation available in TypeScript. You have to use TypeScript type narrowing to get to the point, and that totally sucks. It's just not saying you don't have the right utensils to work with result objects in TypeScript. There are some people that have started using result type like this now in generic. But yeah, I think this is good. So Judo, I think this could just Go allows for it. So Go does have at least Go is a non-throw language, so you have the potential to have this. Now all Go needs to do is stop sticking around, support a result object first class, and allow some syntax to be added in, so that way you can just use a result-like object. If they just do that, life would be amazing. On Go, I think Go would be one of the single best languages ever. They just did that. Get that out. There's a couple other things I don't like. I don't like the fact that you can have structure the map, and a map is nil. Oh, Beasto, I have 2 channels now. You not realize that? This is like for the real ones, Beastco. Okay? Are you part of the real ones? Obviously not. Congrats, Bramjan, on nearly passing my sub count on your side channel, by the way. My main channel is DJ. Damn it, DJ. If your expectation isn't that the whole world is corrupt, like everything's gonna be really hard. A hot take, weather balloon deserved to come casually explained, yeah.
What do you think about C#? See if you C# with these nuts on your eyes.
Fall for that one? Okay, that's called Ligma defense right there. Okay, I was ready that time. You think I'm just gonna fall for that this time? I saw those nuts coming out, I was like, yeah! You think I'm gonna fall for it again? Okay, you already dunked on me twice. Let's do this.
I heard you like Factory.
Okay, I don't like that. Okay, so now that original is really getting started. Real talk. We did have an abstract. We had an abstract builder factory, okay? An abstract builder factory that would produce images and other assets for all of our new original content. So I mean, I did get the full abstract builder factory, right? Like I think that's really a winner. And if I'm not mistaken, we also had an abstract factory. We also had the abstract factory. We had it all. We had the builder config factory, sure. So you'd build up a config, and then you'd produce it, and it was super complicated. And I got most of it down. But man, those days of Java, you know, Java's a lot of mysteries, you know what I mean? You just get stuff, right? It's just like, if you ever want a good factory, go get it.
In this video, we will learn about 8 design patterns every developer should know.
Strategy's the only one. The strategy pattern is like the greatest pattern of all time, okay? Everyone uses the strategy pattern. Second off, iterative pattern, real good.
In 1994, the Gang of Four released the Holy Book design patterns, introducing 23 object.
By the way, if you haven't read this, you should. Even if you don't like OOP, this idea of patterns that can exist within software is really amazing, and it also works in things like Rust. There is patterns in Rust. Being able to understand patterns and like abstract them out and reuse a strategy to write software, I think is one of the best things you can do, because no matter what software you write, there are patterns that can make things simpler and make other people get up to speed.
Into one of 3 buckets: creational patterns, structural patterns, and behavioral patterns. While some argue that it's dated, the fact
when you look at this for a second, you realize like how annoyingly coupled this is. You know what I mean? Like your method names, like you have to say the thing you want as the method name, but it uses the strategy pattern at the end. The strategy pattern is good. Like notice the strategy pattern at the end, they all have the word print. Yeah, this example makes no sense. I agree with that. But the print thing at the end, this makes a lot of sense. Why not use an enum? I don't think this language... I mean, at this point, you should probably compose a burger of its various toppings. Because you should be able to push a topping and make your own. Then you can have named ones, right? You should just have named ones. You don't have to create new instances. It should just be named hard-coded ones, and then you can have build your own ones, right? Well, let's be real here. By the way, this is the better way to do it. This whole, it is better. It is, in generally, you should always use a builder pattern. Rust has a builder pattern. This is a real good one. This is always usually much better. This whole, like, not returning yourself, though, this is kind of freaking me out. Like, you should return yourself. Return yourself! You know, he just lightly threw out using these with proto buffs. Like, that is a really great thing. Proto buffs are amazing. And And this is one of the reasons why they're so good. When I'm at Google, I know just casually tosses out Google and Protobuffs. It's NeetCode's absolutely right. Like when you use proper builder patterns, which is just like something you see all the time. This is like a good thing you can actually take away. I like use this. Honestly, use this today. Says the Netflix guy. You know, when I'm designing my software at Netflix, I tend to use the builder pattern as well. You know what I mean? It's like this is actually a really good. This is a very useful idea in general, and it works in a lot of languages. It's right. It's just good times. To be fair, I did use a singleton pattern for this when I was writing the video driver and the audio driver. The thing is that I also wrote the driver in such a way that behind the singleton was a strategy pattern. So it'd create a singleton strategy pattern. So that way I could write a sync player, something that doesn't actually go to anything. It just is like a software sync. It just swallows all the video and audio. So that way I could do like high performance testing, right? I could play 2 hours of video in 5 seconds, or I had it really actually go out to the actual television. And so there is places where the singleton makes a lot of sense, and especially if you can mix in like a singleton with a strategy, you can create ways to create your whole system such that it makes a lot of sense. So just saying, I know the singleton gets a lot of riffraff, but there are a few places where it's super useful. For me, that was super useful. Also, this example is terrifying. I hate the idea, modifying a static, a singleton. It just terrifies me. Like this right here, this thing terrifies me. I know, it's not, dude, it's crazy. It's crazy. They're just so hard to test. They are so hard to test. I'm totally on your team with that. Shared mutable state. Shared mutable state is the bane of all programming and the key to super awesome, amazing performance. And is the scariest thing in the universe, and so careful. Iterators was good. In fact, you should know an iterator pattern. One of my first interviews with Google like 10 years ago when I had to fill it out on Google Docs, I actually did the Google interview at my job when I was writing C for the government for robots. And at Google, by the way, I got rejected, by the way. They didn't like me, by the way. But part of that interview was to write an iterator, right? And so knowing iterators are super useful. It's a great pattern. And I've used iterators as ways to solve problems at Netflix, by the way. By the way, I work at Netflix, by the way. And so it's really, really good. Yeah, Netflix or Google did reject me twice, and then they offered me a salary lower than the one I have at Netflix and tried to convince me that it's a starting point. And I said, of course it's a starting point. Any point you give me is a starting point. What you're saying is an objective truth for an objectively bad offer. So try again. Aren't you the guy that built the autoplay sound on the homepage? I am. How do I get into Netflix as a software intern? Be amazing. I use this I literally use this exact same thing. So I had to create, so at Netflix, I'm doing this whole like performance audio video thing that I've been kind of talking about. And when I'm building up some of the data stuff, there's some values that as I build it up row by row, I need to use the previous value. But there's other that I need to only use the values that happened within that specific time span. And so what I did is I created an emitter, right? So I have a continuous emitter, one that always emits the previous value, and then I have a counter emitter so that as time passes, I only emit at that point what I saw. At Netflix, of course, by the way, I work at Netflix. I don't know if you know that.
You can add additional strategies without modifying.
You don't even have to like OOP to love strategy pattern. Strategy pattern it's just make the thing into an interface and do the logic below the interface. Program at an interface level. That's all strategy pattern is. Program at an interface level. Oh, Netflix, you must get a free subscription. Shut up! Adapter pattern, what I like to call the lose your hair slowly pattern. So facade pattern, the facade pattern is actually... Okay, so remember that whole like types definition argument that we went over, the whole return types and all that? In Theo's video, one of the reasons why I love return types is that you can actually facade it. And this is really important. It's not facade. It's not facade, or however you're saying it. It's facade. And so I actually like the facade pattern. Facade is just encapsulation. Facade is just like a fancy-ass word for simple shit, right? It's interface. Again, it always just comes down to interfaces. This is just facade these nuts. It's just simply make an interface, and not all interfaces need to be equal. This is a perfect example. The problem about the facade pattern is it's not necessarily a pattern as much as it is just good programming technique. Because the thing is that you can't really the thing about like the strategy pattern is that there is an inherent thing you can apply it to. You can inherently apply the observer pattern. You can inherently apply the singleton pattern. This one you can't just apply because there's no actual application. It's just like you take a bunch of stuff and you make it into a method for doing a thing. Everything's a facade. Everything's a facada. Exactly. And so that's like part of the problem with this pattern is that there's no concrete application of it. You don't know. A good programmer uses it. A bad programmer uses it. A good programmer just uses it better than a bad programmer uses it. A facade pattern doesn't even have to be an extension of OO. It's just an extension of good programming. You can take anything that you can hide information and you can have private implementation details and external ways to call it. A server, you can imagine a server is a facade. A CRUD application is a facade. You don't have to know the squeal query to go do whatever you're doing. You're just calling a simple endpoint. It's just an abstraction that makes something simpler, quote unquote simpler. But the problem is once you add enough abstractions, you actually remake it complicated again. Facade pattern is both the best thing in the universe and the literal worst thing in the universe. By the way, I work at Netflix. If you don't know that, if you don't have a valid email, you're crazy. Yellow. Exceptionally beautiful wife, by the way. I work at Netflix. Beautiful wife. Yo, baby. Hey, baby. Hey, baby. I meet Fireship this upcoming week. I've been developing software now professionally for more than a decade. I've been at Netflix for more than, or close to a decade at this point.
First blood. An enemy has been slain.
Over the last half-century, we've launched around 100 telescopes into space. More than 20 of them are diligently scanning the universe right now. At the same time, a few dozen radio observatories keep listening for any signals from space. As a result, we've received mind-blowing pictures of distant stars and galaxies and mesmerizing ambient sounds coming from exotic objects. But there's one main thing we can't hear or see: traces of other intelligent civilizations that actively explore outer space. This may have two possible explanations. We're either absolutely alone in the infinite universe with no one else within billions of light years around, or humanity is just about to run into highly developed aliens, and it's hard to predict what consequences this encounter may have. Are you anxious already? Today, we'll try to find out which of the answers to the great silent mystery is closest to the truth. What if we really live a hopelessly lonely interstellar life? Scientists of the past couldn't stand this idea. They were adamant that other planets of our solar system were densely populated. Nomads roaming around the deserts of Mercury, tropical jungles on Venus, and even entire civilizations that built Martian canals. All of these are real scientific hypotheses of the past ages. And only in the 20th century, when we sent probes to the nearest planet, we realized an obvious thing: these worlds are absolutely lifeless. However, the most recent analyses suggest that even our galaxy alone may harbor from 300 million to 40 billion Earth-like planets. Numbers with so many digits make the concept of our stellar solitude look extremely far-fetched, but not impossible. After all, how many of those planets are likely to have everything that makes Earth habitable? A long-lasting star that doesn't explode into violent flares, enough organic matter to build complex molecules, and of course some liquid water on the surface to complete this primal life soup. And don't forget a massive moon on duty to stabilize the planet's chaotic rotation and climate. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of other known and unknown ingredients needed to eventually get one tiny living world in this immense universe. I mean, our Earth. Most scientists refuse to believe in its uniqueness, but since they still can't prove an exact recipe for the birth of life, it may well require billions of components. Far away in space, there might exist billions of Earth-like worlds outside our galaxy. What are the chances that each and every one of them is dead? And yet, it may be some other thing that makes our home planet unique. This is what plagued Enrico Fermi, a physicist, when in 1950 he sat down to lunch with his colleagues at Los Alamos National Laboratory and shocked them with a simple question: but where is everybody? By this, he meant not only living beings, but also advanced extraterrestrial civilizations that had to somehow indicate their existence during 5 billion years. Yes, that's what astronomers of the mid-20th century concluded when estimating the age of the universe. Now we know that it's 2.5 times as old, although it looks just as pristine. And this makes the so-called Fermi paradox even more scandalous. The physicist himself believed that humans as an intelligent species are truly one of a kind, but he couldn't explain why. But perhaps somebody else does. In the late 90s, economics professor Robert Hansen came up with the hard-step theory of evolution. According to this theory, cellular life is only the first and definitely not the most difficult step. After this, life forms need to evolve into multicellular organisms. When this task is done, they've got to develop a brain complex enough to have a mind, which will later create a technological civilization, and ultimately start reaching for the stars. It took Earth around 4 billion years to go through these 5 complex stages, and Robin Hansen strongly suspects this is an absolute space record. Maybe life forms on some Earth-like worlds haven't yet managed to move further.
Hey, do you know what the future of Java holds? I don't, and I'm a Java champion, by the way. They tell me when new and novel stuff happens, but I still don't know what it'll look like in, say, a few years' time. We all have some ideas, but nobody knows the future. It's uncertain, and that's okay, because it's possible to get a lot of really cool things in Java today, thanks to the Manifold project. Manifold is a Java compiler plugin, or at least that's what the website says. You and I shall have to accept that it's a Java compiler plugin and that it's sorcery made by space wizards from the future. It supplements Java with cool features like extension methods, properties, tuple expressions, operator overloads, unit expressions, a preprocessor, type access to bizarre data formats, and so much more. In this video, we're going to review just a few of the possibilities, a smorgasbord, if you will. We can't be exhaustive, there's just too much wind in this project. So, buckle up, pour some coffee, and hug your nearest OpenJDK distribution, because it's going to be just fine. Let's dive right into it. Go to the Spring Initializer, generate a new project with Lumbuk. Now, Lumbuk is not a part of Manifold, but Lumbuk is still super impressive, and it does its own kind of magic, and so I was wondering if this would work well with Manifold. I added it to this project so that you could see that they work well together, basically. Generate the project and open it in your favorite IDE. It's worth noting that when I say favorite IDE, I just mean JetBrains.
With the release of Milio, we got yet another teaser for the Darkin Doggy. We know she is the next release after him, so we could see her pretty soon actually. We already had voice lines from Nidalee's new voice referencing to Naafiri twice, when she received 2 references to Milio before she got released too, but now Milio too has 2 voice lines referring to Naafiri.
So many dogs! Which one's like Snuggles the most, Naafiri? Naafiri! Who's a good puppy? You're a good puppy!
I'm starting to think those dogs that she will control won't be that demonic after all. Unless Milio is a fan of Darkin hellhounds and calls every animal cute, and he's a bit of a psychopath since he calls her a good puppy after killing her, but I wasn't picturing them as small cute puppies. But at least we got yet another confirmation that she will indeed be a pack of wolves, not just one, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in game. Will she be able to move them separately and put a dog on each lane? Or are they always together, or each ability summons a different one? But I still hope they will be more scary looking wolves and not small puppies, but we'll see soon.
Let me know what you would prefer. Leave a like or I will send a hellhound after you to steal your bacon, and thanks for watching.
Double kill. Triple kill. Your team has destroyed a turret.
Yeah, story. I gotta tell you a funny ass story. Alright, it just came to me. The story just came to me. I just remember this. Alright, you guys know how I was in Mexico for like a year and a half. Okay, it's number 1, not a fake story. Okay, I was in Mexico for like a year and a half. Now, you guys know I met Texas when I was in Mexico. Texas is my boy. He's some dude who actually used to live in Texas, like named himself Texas. He was not actually a legal name or anything. But he's Mexican, but you know, I'm not gonna lie to you, that motherfucker born American. He loves America. He's like, I was in GRC 10-4. Yo, you know, USA Trump. Like, you know, bro, he's like this guy. He's like Uncle Ruckus from, I don't know why I mentioned this, but you know Uncle Ruckus is fucking the Boondock? He's the Mexican Uncle Ruckus. Like, this guy loves America more than Mexico. Regardless, I'm in Mexico chilling with this guy, right? You know, we're doing our thing. I just kind of linked up with him. I just meet the guy, and we don't know each other that well, but we're starting to get to know each other, right? And we end up going to the club. Now, we go to the club, and there's this girl. Honestly, the club's kind of mid. I'm not gonna lie. There's not that much going on. Me and him are just chilling, we're talking. There's just one girl at the club that's one. And like, she's cute if I'm squinting and I got 3 shots in. I'm like, whatever, you know, let's do my thing. I'm like, yo, Texas, you know, me, I'm kind of nervous. Like, I can't go out at this point. I'm going out, really. So Texas is like, yo, I'm gonna give her a shot. Matari's gonna oh, okay, sure. So Texas gives her a shot. And then instantly, the girl comes up to me. Literally within like 6 seconds, she's calling me, whatever. She's like, kissing me. And then I'm like, yo, are those your friends? And there was like kind of like 3 like older women with her. What? Like, yo, she was going crazy. I swear to God. This is me. I'm standing right here, right? Imagine I'm here. The girl is right here, except she's bent over like this on me, and then she's literally talking to her mom. I'll go like this. Like, she's going crazy. Her mom, she's talking to her mom. I wasn't able to compute what was going on. But regardless, I know she was too bad to do that later. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, all right, it's time. It's time. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, Tex, I'm out with this bitch. And they're like, oh, but they want to go out to an after party. I was like, Texas, I'm out this bitch. You know, I tell my girl, I'm like, yo, we out. I'm like, Tex, distract her mom, do your thing, we out. So I take the girl, we take a taxi to my crib. You know what I'm saying? Dunzo. You know, we're good. You know what I'm saying? 10, 15 minutes. And she's like, oh, I need to get a taxi. I was like, okay, I'll get you a taxi. Taxi pulls up. I'm like, yo, taxi's outside. She's like, why aren't you dressing up? I was like, fuck you mean, why am I, homie, I just hit. I'm going to bed. You think I'm coming back out to the club? You're wildin'. Like, no, I'm good. I'm getting my beauty sleep. I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna play blackjack. Like, the fuck are you talking about? She's kind of mad. Whatever. I end up I walk her to the taxi at least. I pay for the taxi. Then she goes to the club with her mom. Now, Texas is still there. Texas spent the night, whatever. I kind of ignore that shit. And then I wake up, I stream, and I link up with Texas next day. Everything's normal. Now, I don't see this girl for like at least another 6 to 8 months. I don't see her. Now, my boy was visiting me in Mexico a few months before I ended up moving out of Mexico. He was visiting me. And we're at the club. We're chilling. It's his birthday. And that girl shows up randomly. I haven't seen her in months. So she pulls up, she comes, she starts like hugging me, gives me like a kiss on the cheek. She's like, hi, how are you? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Qué tal? Whatever, this is blah, 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 small talk. I'm like, yo, this is my boy Daniel, this is my boy Tex, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? You know, they all meet each other, whatever. And Dan was like, who is that? And I was like, oh, like, you know, I told him, like, yo, this is some, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, blah, blah, blah. Dan's like, oh shit, like, really? He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. End of the night happens, we go clubbing, we have a good time, we dance, we do the crazy shit. End of the night, the boys got no pussy. You know what I'm saying? So Dan in Texas, yo, I swear to God, I remember I was literally sitting on the couch, smoking something, let's call it a vape for now. I was just chilling on my own, doing my thing, just chilling, you know what I'm saying? Like, and Texas and Daniel are literally on the other side of my apartment, sitting on the fucking floor, just on their phones, like, who are we gonna hit up? Yo, you wanna fuck this girl together? Yo, what are we doing? Let's do. Yo, these guys are mad horny, bro. On God, they're mad horny. I don't know, like, it really is not that serious, you know what I'm saying? But, like, whatever, they're mad horny. So, the next day, Daniel, again, meets up with that girl that I hit, and he knew I hit. He linked up with her, and he went to the beach with her and her friend. Now, he ended up bringing her back to the crib, he hit, and then she dipped. And I was streaming at the time, so I like finished my stream. I go talk to him, and I'm like, yeah, what happened? He's like, yo, I just hit. He's like, how was it? He's like, it was good. It was normal. She's like, like, you know, whatever, blah blah blah. You know how guys are. Girls, shut the fuck up, okay? Literally, you guys do the same shit. I don't care. Like, literally, everyone does that. I'm tired of this fucking online culture where like, hey, that was personal. You can't. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, my boy. I'm gonna tell my boy what happened. I'm sorry. That's just how it is, bro. On God, you could do the same. Like, it's just how it is. Stop with that bullshit fucking online shit. Stop. You know what I'm saying? I'm asking details. You know, I'm asking. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm getting the mix of things here. Either way, you're so gone. Thank you for the sub. Appreciate you. Why are you mad, dog? I don't know, my bad. Sorry, I'm getting emotional here. So either way, I'm like, okay, congratulations. You know, we're Eskimo brothers. I dapped my boy up, you know what I'm saying? And then nothing. Next day, I'm streaming. Now, this is the situation. I'm in my room on my computer. My boy Daniel and Texas and our other friend Kevin is in the living room. And I'm just chilling on my PC. Now, Daniel comes into my room. He knocks on the door. He's like, Mo, I gotta tell you something. I gotta tell you something. And I'm like, what? He's like, the craziest shit ever. I'm like, what? What happened? And he's like, Texas, you tell him. And Texas is like, no, you tell him. And Dan's like, no, Texas, you tell him. And I'm like, yo, one of you tell me something before I slap the shit out of you. I'm getting mad because these guys are like, oh, it's so funny. Oh, you tell him. Oh, you tell. I'm getting tight. You know what I'm saying, bro? You can already tell I got anger issues. I'm like, yo, I will fuck you. Tell me the story. I'm getting mad, bro. They're not telling me. Why are you fucking with me? Brady, thank you for the sub. So tell me what happens. Basically, Daniel tells Kevin. Daniel tells Kevin. He's like, yo, I just fucked that girl Sylvana yesterday. You know what I'm saying? And then Kevin responds. He's like, bro, that Sylvana, she's such a hoe. She fucked the whole fucking city. She even fucked Texas. Daniel's like, what? Texas never said nothing. Name drop, bro. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Either way, fucking Daniel's like, what? Texas looked over like this. When they told me the story, I was like, what? How did Texas win? And I asked Texas, I'm like, how'd you hit? When? Why didn't you tell me? He's like, oh, I didn't want you to be mad. I'm like, mad? I'm mad you didn't tell me. I'm not mad you hit. What the fuck? I don't care. And he pretty much tells me, he's like, before you even came to, before I hit, apparently he saw her like 2 weeks before that and hit. And then he let me hit 2 weeks later. And then that night I hit, she went back to the after club. She gave him top at the club too. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then after all that, Daniel left. I swear to God, 2 days later, Tex invited her to the house and he hit again. They told me that shit smelled like the ocean. Respectfully. Couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Where I couldn't believe it. Motherfuckers is crazy.
Your turret has been destroyed.
threat initially. Not anymore because they've been ratioed as rivers, but initially, Warriors of the West. How silly of them. in this clearly affluent area, why did they not simply hook the fire hose up to a nearby fire hydrant? Why did they not simply use their phones to call the fire department? Huh? Why did they not petition for one of those big forest fire water dumping planes to simply evacuate hundreds of thousands of gallons of potable water directly onto this dirt house fire using dirt? Obviously, the joke is at their expense here. The best thing you can do to put out a fire under these circumstances is to throw dirt on it. And I can't show you this anymore because it's not here anymore, but these comments were just packed full of the smuggest racists in the world. Just the most, oh my God, they were so proud of themselves. Maybe they're a bit worse than the comments of this one. I like this one too, this racial consciousness Twitter account here. So you have a guy. I'll let him speak for himself. Good for him. So, first of all, we're about to talk about, you know, racism. I don't get it. This guy is obviously white. I mean, look. So anyway, we shouldn't have to live this way. They ruin every single place they have. You know, like, you just tripping over guys pouring milk. Especially in Africa. Oh, he retweeted. Did he? Retweeted? Oh yeah, sorry. I tweeted. This hard-hitting blast of racial consciousness would be a lot more effective if videos of white people being annoying attention seekers in public weren't crowding my social media feed 24/7. I was wise. Apparently he quote tweeted. I love how triggered he is. I should thank him though. His quote of my post has got me about 400 new followers so far, and has got my post up to nearly 2 million as of right now. My previous record was like 650k views, so this is pretty great. Thanks, Fat Tommy. So, incredible work here. You know, look at how many people are watching me pissing my pants. And I know Vosh was so powerful. Yeah, I'm making this guy's career, I guess. Thanks, Fat Tommy. True. You know, you can say that, but you know this guy is like bloated as right? Because he has this as his Twitter Abby. Anytime you have any like austere white Aryan Ubermensch or like a marble statue from the Roman era as your Twitter PSP, it's pretty much guaranteed that your BMI is in the triple digits. But all that aside, I want to talk about this phenomenon, which maybe we can actually demonstrate just by browsing through the media account of this racial consciousness. If white people really are hateful, racist against blacks, this is why. It doesn't happen for no reason. Liberal logic. Whites rule the whole world. Whites conquered and enslaved every other race. Whites stole every other race's land, inventions, and ideas. Whites hold all non-whites down, but whites' ability to do all of this has nothing to do with white superiority. If it isn't the Jews running things, why do I get in so much trouble for saying it's the Jews? From apolitical, very fitting. You know, Aryan IQ operating at its greatest possible. You know, the account goes on like this a lot, obviously. There's a war being waged against us, white people. Blacks apparently saved you. But I want to talk about the trend broadly. Okay, I'm just trying to demonstrate a trend, which is like the you post like a video of a black person doing anything, you know, and then you fill like the entire character space you get on Twitter with, you know, our once great Western civilization is crumbling. Billions of years of white evolution are being undone. We must act now, you know, so on and so forth. And you know, obviously it's really silly when you look at it with any kind of critical eye, because if you're not completely, you can notice, you know, a couple of biases here. One of which being, wow, I've seen white people do this like a ton of times. They're just posting black people doing it, try to make some kind of broad point. And wow, that broad point doesn't actually make any sense. They're trying to tie like relatively innocuous behavior to some kind of grand civilization of decline. And wow, the language they're using is really like grandiose and kind of feels like I'm a 14-year-old with a porn addiction LARPing and so on and so forth. But a lot of people don't view these with a critical mind. A lot of people actually really, like, this really works with them. You know what I mean? Like, this kind of stuff really resonates with them. And what we're seeing is basically just like a modern incarnation of what was previously like the Fox News bug-posting boomer viewer phenomenon, where you would have like grandpas sit on their couch all day watching Fox News broadcasts on thugs and crime in the inner cities, you know, with their sagging heads. And you would get like, albeit sort of framed through a professional news format, essentially the same content, just a little bit less explicit. You know, they don't say, you know, whites must stay. What they'll say, you know, like thugs are destroying America. It's the same basic message. A lot of people are waiting for it. Well, I think a lot of people really enjoy watching it because they have a lot of really strong internal feelings about race and crime, and those feelings to them are kind of silly and impotent unless they're given what feels like a legitimate channel for them. Do you ever get that feeling? What I'm talking about here is like, if a person is really, really racist, you know, that consumes a lot of emotional energy. It involves like a commitment of a lot of thought. And I think it can feel really silly to be really obsessive about something like that unless you're given some kind of justification. We see this with a lot of phenomena, by the way. Like, you might see this in, I don't know, Taylor Swift fans or something, right? Like, you know, you have a Swiftie who's really obsessed with Taylor Swift, but in the absence of any material, that obsession comes across as kind of like trite, obnoxious, weird, obsessive. But if a lot's going on, it feels like it's a lot more justified. I saw this a lot with Homestuck or Steven Universe, where ultra fans of those products would get way more loud when stuff was happening, when stuff was being produced, not just because there was new stuff to talk about, but also because the presence of something to directly refer to legitimized the pre-existing obsession they had. Their obsession didn't go away when there wasn't new material to look at. It was just they knew that continuing to talk about it in the absence of something immediate and resonant and attention grabbing.
30 seconds until minions spawn. Minions have spawned. Your team has destroyed a turret. Your turret has been destroyed. enemy has been slain. Shut down.